I'm preparing the live stream from Zoom to YouTube. Okay, we got everybody up and running. Content is here. I'm running live on YouTube. Okay, welcome everyone. We have a hurricane coming in our direction. We can use this for the idea of risk. Remember, Amelie, we talked about risk, mitigating risks, evaluating risks. So we're mitigating our risk by what? Basically not, the university on the Coral Gables campus is closing down to mitigate those possible risks. Do we know what's going to happen in the future? No. Maybe really the hurricane here, since it's not in our path, there may be just rains, but still, why in this case, it's not worth it to take the risk. So we're going to mitigate it. So for us, let me let you know that we're not going to be able to meet physically on Wednesday. So I'm postponing the exam to next Wednesday. Same time, same place. I've reserved the lab. We were able to have the lab. And the beauty is we can stay afterwards. So if we're tight on time, you need a couple of extra minutes, you'll have a couple of extra minutes with me. You don't have to be rushing out. So what I want to do today is discuss and do a thorough review of the exam with you, talk about how the process is, and answer any of your questions. And I'll be doing a review myself of what I think is important. So, any volunteers for class participation to moderate the chat?
I can do it.
Okay, so Emily, do you want to do, and someone else want to join Emily? And
I can do it.
okay, so Ellie, great. So we got two great volunteers and I'm ready to go. Any questions that you want, put it into the chat, or you can unmic yourself and ask me questions. And you folks, Ellie and Emily, my two E's, E squared, is basically allow, unmute yourself and you can interrupt and ask me. I'll stay afterwards for any personal issues, but we'll do this. This Wednesday, what I decided to do, since we're not doing the exam, I'll have you use it as finishing up anything that's needed. Also use it as a study session. Since you're going to go on fall break, what I think is use Wednesday to study. So that way, when you come back from fall break, you'll be ready, refreshed. Just in the morning, you can look it over. Tuesday night, you can look it over, what we need. So let me start. Anything else? Everybody's, hopefully everybody's camera is working. Okay. So you'll let me know if there's anything in the chat. So let me share my screen. This is our review. So under, you can see under announcements is Wednesday, the 9th. You'll use the class for a study time. And the exam is moved to the same place on October 16th. Under PowerPoint and documents, you have the exam, review exam. If you've downloaded it before, I added a couple of more. You can see this is dated 10/7. I added a couple of more terms here. For the exam will be Wednesday, then it will be in the same School of Business, SBA 204 PC Lab. You can then, we'll start at 5:05. And some of you may have classes afterwards. If you don't, I'll stay with you extra minutes. If you have any adoptions that you need to have more time, let me know. Send me an email on that. You need to bring with you your pictured ID, either your King card or government ID. Sometimes the King card is good enough. And make sure you bring your laptops. You must bring your laptops to class. You must have the latest version of Respondus downloaded on your laptop. The computers, will be using the school's computers, but in case, we had issues. We had issues last time, remember, that we couldn't get into NinjaTrader. Who knows if we can't get into Respondus. There's going to be 2 parts, multiple choice, true, false. There'll be 60 questions, and there'll be 2 open-ended questions that you need to show your understanding to, and there'll be those 2 questions. There'll be 2 parts. You can decide whether you want to do the multiple choice first or the short answer. You'll have to open up Respondus, go to Blackboard. I'll tell you where you need to find the exam. You'll take the exam. You can take it once. I am not going to time you, so you're going to have to time yourself. I don't want to restrict you. Some people need more time on the open-ended. Some people need more time on the multiple choice. Sometimes if English is not your mother tongue, sometimes it takes longer to read questions. So I'll leave that up to you. You'll have your, there's clocks on the wall, so you'll be able to see the time. When you log into one with Respondus, when you finish, it will shut down, and then you'll need to take out your phone again to get your Duo in order to get your second part. Okay? You will not be able, it will be closed book. It will be closed. You will not be able to use your phones. Your phones have to be put away. And if you need to leave the classroom for any purpose, you need to leave all your materials with me, including your phone. Okay, that's number 1. So in terms of looking at the review, people are asking me, how should you review? One of the things that I think you should do is, I'd start off, 1 is go through your quizzes. Your quizzes are on your, if you look at your grade book, since you were able to take your quizzes twice, if you look at your grade book, if you click on your calculated scores there, you can review your quizzes. I do that as number 1. I'd also go to Wiley Reading and Adaptive, and under the Wiley Plus course resources, I have a different view, but in this case, you can go to practice. So why don't we do this? Let me stop sharing. And maybe, Damian, why don't you go to Wiley Adaptive Quizzes and share your screen, because you're going to have a different view than I do. Right? We talked about roles, users' roles. So can you do that for me, please? Okay, go to Wiley Course Plus on the top there. And let me see what you have. Under practice, right? And let's pick under practice, let's pick chapter 4. Okay, and let's do practice question 1. Okay, so this is great. So the threats to information security are, and the threat, okay, so we got to think, so we got to figure out, this is how I should do multiple choice too. I have to figure out, is it increasing or decreasing? And is it the greatest threat? Is it human or technological, or it's staying about the same? So what do you think, Damien?
I think the first one.
Okay, let's try it. So we do the first one, submit the answer, and your answer is correct. Okay, so you can have the correct example, and then you can, go through that. So this is another, and then they give me the correct answer. So you can view the policies, and you can go through a number of these on yourself. This is just another aspect. There's a number of different ways to do it. Okay, and then you can do in this unintentional deliberate threats. Go down a little bit so I can see what organization's doing. Let's do information security controls, 4.5, question 1. Okay, a password. So now we know we have a number of controls. What's a control? Basically, if I think about, I have my information systems is vulnerable. What do I want to do is I want to mitigate those risks. One way I can do it is I can implement information security controls. One is a physical control. Another one is an access control, they're telling me, and another is a communication control. So I need to know the differences. Physical, Gabrielle, Andrea, what's a physical control, you think? Give me an example. We have a PC lab, right? When you get into the PC lab, Gabrielle, Andrea, when you go in, was there any physical control? Could everybody just go into that lab?
No.
What did you need? What did they do?
You get into the lab?
Uh-huh. You had to swipe your card.
Yeah, a cane card.
Cane card, right? So what do you think that is? You think that's a physical control, an access control, or communication control, where they had blocking of the door? If you had to guess.
I think access.
Yeah, it's access, but it's an access to how I could access, but it's also physical. They put locks on the door, right? That could be both. So a password system in this case, Eli, what do you think it is? Is it physical access or communication? Eli, Franco.
I'd say access.
Okay, let's try it. Okay, so we said here your answer is correct. So you can see here we have physical access controls. This is another number of ways in which you can do it. Okay, so now we know that you could do so you have a different view that you can take on a number of these ones, and then you can see even on the questions here, they have unintentional threats versus deliberate threats. So you have to kind of figure out what is unintentional versus what is deliberate. So Anders, if you think about that even, what is the difference between unintentional versus deliberate?
Maybe you write like an error into code or something. Like that's like unintentional, and then like deliberate is like you're purposely doing it.
Yeah, it's basically bad actors always do so. Have you heard the term bad actors, Anders?
Yeah.
Yeah, so bad actors, those hackers, those malicious people are deliberate. I'm a disgruntled employee. They fired me. Before they fire me, I'm going to do something deliberate, threat to the information systems. I'm going to for financial purposes, for other purposes, I'm doing deliberate. Unintentional threats to the system is basically, what do they tell you? It's basically, how do you do good, safe computing? Don't press on links that you don't know about, right? It's just that as that way, that's unintentional, meaning that there could be something unintentional in the code. There could be a mistake, but a lot of times it's on end users, right? Unintentionally, I wasn't trying to do some harm. I clicked on a link and I got basically allowed open, or I shared, via social engineering. Somebody asked me, they're fixing the system. I want the duo code, or can I buy something, those scams. And I said, oh yes. So that's the difference between unintentional and deliberate, and what organizations are doing to protect information resources. Press that, Damien. 4-4 practice question 1. Right? And here, this is the question, Gabriela Ortega. It says, buying health insurance is an example of, whereas going without is example of risk something. So let's think about it, Gabriela. I'm always taking some risk, right? Tomorrow or the next day, have you heard we're getting that Hurricane Milton that's coming? It's not supposed to hit us, but there's some risk, right? That we may get the waves, it may go a little bit, we may have gusts of wind. The same thing here. Did you drive a car, Gabriela? And in order to buy a car, is it a possibility that you'll get in an accident? Yes, you may have an uninsured driver that may hit into you. You may not pay attention. You may hit into a driver. It may be flooded, right? In your car, your brakes aren't starting to work or something like that. So what we do when we have risk, what we do is sometimes we can transfer the risk to another party. Instead of you paying, if I crash into you, I don't have insurance, Gabriela Ortega. If I don't have insurance, you're still going to need to fix your car. What you can do is you can buy insurance that will transfer the risk. That's called transference. Where insurance going is in the example is what is I can also accept the risk. So for instance, when you got into my Zoom meeting, Gabriela Ortega, did you have to put in a password?
No.
No. I accepted the risk that other people could actually come into my session of Zoom. To me, I accept that risk, right? So sometimes, or what do I have on my, I may have a session where everybody can download my PowerPoints. So somebody could come into my Blackboard and I take the risk that people can download the PowerPoints. It's not going to be so, I think it's not a big risk to take. Let them take my PowerPoints. But if I had my financial information, I had my credit card, and I was a university and I had all my credit card information of all my students, I wouldn't accept that risk that my credit card information is non-encrypted. Do you understand? So I can have transference is basically, you can think about it is I'm going to transfer, I'm going to move the risk from myself, from my organization to a second party, to a third party. So think about it, Gabriela Ortega. Were you here the last class where we had the security director?
Yes.
You remember? And he talked about he was afraid that somebody was going to hack into the computer, basically do like ransomware, basically threaten and close down the computers, and we wouldn't get able to get access to the computer systems of the university. Do you think they could transfer the risk of the costs of losing that data or being down? Do you think the university has insurance for cybersecurity, Gabriela?
Yes.
Yeah. They're transferring the risk. They said, we know possibly that it's done. We know possibly it can occur. Let's transfer the risk. But Gabriela, the insurance company is going to make sure that the university follows some standards, that they're not negligent. So they're going to say, we've established that you need Duo for anyone getting into the system, right? If they didn't have Duo, some people ask, why do have Duo? One of the reasons they have Duo is for the insurance companies, to show that they have Duo. Let's look at another one under 4.4, Damien. Let's go back. Okay, so that was good. Okay, so now we go back. Let's do another one under that situation. Okay, let's look at that. Implementing controls to prevent threats from occurring and developing a recovery plan should the threats occur are two broad functions of. So we want to implement controls to prevent threats, and we want to develop a recovery plan if the threats happen. Think about now even the university, right? Hurricanes, right? We could have damage. So I need to have, in this case, I need to develop a recovery plan should the threat happen. So one of the things you saw, even the university did what, Damien, is they closed down the university physically, right? They didn't want to take some of those risks. So what is it? Is it risk mitigation, reducing the risk acknowledgement, risk acceptance, or all of these? So what do you think, Alex? Let's choose one.
I think it's all of them.
Okay, let's put all of these and let's see. Your answer is incorrect. Okay? And we got to figure out why. Why do you think, Damien, that answer is incorrect? And I must tell you, Alex, it's always good. You always only tend to all of these sound always good, doesn't it? When you think about your probabilities, right? All sounds good.
I don't think it has to do with acceptance or acknowledgement.
Okay. So let's try again. Submit the answer. Okay. So let's do, so which one? Okay. So it's risk mitigation, right? Risk acknowledgement says, I accept the risk. I don't care, right? I go ahead and do it, right? Right? I'm accepting it or I acknowledge this risk. So it's risk mitigation. And let's go back to one. Do we have any more on that? And let's do information security controls. Okay, so these are the information, a password, we talked about it. So what did we say what was a password then? Amelie. So a password was access, right? So let's say submit. Okay, answer. Now let's go to the next physical control, Damien. Access controls consists of, comma, which confirms user identity and which determines user access levels. So these are going to be quite, you asked me, Amelie, what screws people up? You know, what are the problems? Remember, we discussed that. And a lot of times is when you have those two and you don't read it correctly, you know? So you almost have to say, so access control consists of what? Which confirms the user identity and determines user. So access control consists of access, which confirms the user privileges. It sounds like what? That we're repeating the word. So what do you think, Amelie?
I think it's authentication and authorization.
Okay, so let's think about it before we check. Access controls consists of authentication, which confirms the user identity, and authorization, which determines the user access level. So let's submit. Right. That first one right away, access doesn't mean it's using the same term. I wouldn't know I would even remove it. So a lot of times in taking the test, this is almost like test taking, right? Problems, I would eliminate those choices that don't make any sense, right? And then we can continue. Let's go back. That was question 2 on 4 or 5. And then we have that. And you can do for the other ones too. Okay. So that's one of them. And then while I have you here, then if we get out of that and go to our PowerPoints. So one is go through the quizzes that you have in your grade book, right? And the other one, and everybody, you want to see that, you mind here in the grade book? Let's see, where's your grade book? My grade, just to make sure everybody understands that. And then if you information security, I guess you click on the 10 that you got there. Is that how you get into it? Okay. And then I guess you click there, calculate a grade. So, and then you can go through these. So everybody see, I want to make sure that everybody sees it, because what your role, Damien, why I'm doing it, your role then is it. So there'll be similar questions like that, Amelie, on the one, and there could be changes to it. So rather than memorizing, I could figure out then, for instance, in selected answers here is to figure out what you did of phishing, right? And selected answers, go capture. What else do they ask you about here? And notice here, it's exactly the same thing here. Risk mitigation, risk management, risk analysis. Risk mitigation is twice. Oh, that was the correct answer. Okay. It's going to say that comes twice. Okay, fine. So we got that part. And then the other part that I would look at it under PowerPoints and documents. Go to PowerPoints and introduction to systems. Right. And in that case, you could go through, for instance, in this case, go to chapter 5. And in chapter 5, I would open that up and page down. Let's see, we don't need page down again, page down. Go up 1, 2, go up 2. Yeah, right here. So the basics of the data base approach, you remember we talked about all our data is going to be in one area, the database. So we're going to reduce that redundancy, right? So I'm going to be, in some ways, my security is going to be more important. We have the big data, and one of the examples of the big data is what? Our NinjaTrader example. So when you're going to be doing the open-ended NinjaTrader questions, it's important that you actually discuss what you used and discuss how you did the problems there. Data warehouse and data marts. It's using what in this case, if I think about data, Ricardo, data warehouse and data marts use what type of data? Future data, present data, or past data? Historical data or future data or present data? Data warehouse and data mart.
Historical data.
Historical data. So, and what's an example of that was back testing, right? When we back tested, when we wanted to see how the system would work, back tested in time, right? We use basically, you can think about the data warehouse in one way is that data mart is a subset. We wanted to see, for instance, the strategy SMA 1025 crossover, we wanted to maximize our total profits. And then scroll down. I'm not going to cover fundamentals of relational database. Go down. Let's see what we got here. Next one. Go up one. Okay, that whole idea of data governance, right? Or the policies and procedures, right? That are important. Page down again. And then we think about multiple sources of data. You can think about this. In our NinjaTrader example, what were multiple data sources? We did what? End of day, kinetic feed, data feed. And when we didn't get that green ball in the left-hand corner, we knew what? We weren't in the data feed, but we also think about it can use external databases, clickstream data. We can use then sentiment data. That's important. Click down again. What's in that page down for me, Damien? Database approach. So you need to know what the data hierarchy is. Page down. These, page up one. So these are going to be key. If I'm dealing data management systems, I want to put all my data in one part, in one place. So number of parts of the organization can access that same data. What do I want to do? I want to do what? The purpose is I want to minimize that data redundancy. I don't want your address, Amelie, in 10 different places. If I want it in less places, that's called data redundancy. Data isolation. Some of the data could be isolated in a database, let's say in the sports department, in the athletic department, and I don't have access where I want to find scholarships for athletes. So if the data is isolated, not everyone can appreciate it. And also, if I have multiple versions of my data, I want to make sure that I minimize that data inconsistency. I don't have a GPA that says you have a 4.0, another place has 3.5, and another one's 3.3. Or what's more likely is I have 5 different addresses for you. I want to conserve. And it's the same thing in my stock data that I want to be able to have not reduce that data inconsistency. And you go to the next slide, Damien. So in here, what do I want to maximize? Since my data is more vulnerable, it's in one location, I need to maximize data security. That's what that data security advisor was coming to tell us. That's what he's scared about. That's what keeps him up at night. That somebody's going to hack in and get that data, and all I have to do is get the Social Security data, that they get the patient data, they get the credit card information. I have to maximize data integrity, meaning that I can rely on that data. If I'm going to make forecasts about the stock market, I need to know that I can rely on that data. And that data is independent. It's not going to be manipulated by anyone else. Then page down to the next one, next slide. And here, of course, we talked about it before. You need to know the data hierarchy, right? From the smallest of zeros and ones to a byte, which is a character, a field that is what, a column, a data file or a table is like a sheet, and a number of tables related is a database. And page down, so you can go through these as well. The hierarchy of data, page down again. And then these are key terms. The most important key term besides a database management system is the primary key, right? Versus the secondary key. The primary key is going to be unique for that table. I will find one record. I will find you specifically. So I need the C number, something like that. The secondary. So I could give you a table and ask you then what would be the primary key and versus what would be the secondary key. Any questions in the chat that I need to address? And then if I go down one slide, and then you can see here in this one, what is it? So if you make that a little larger, we can see that that's an easy one, right? That if I look at that, Parker, in this slide there, thank you so much, and I asked you, what's the primary key of this table, Parker, you would automatically say which one? Which field or which attribute?
Student ID.
Of course, simple. Easy when you know it, right? And why is that important? It's the same thing that when we were doing our stock analysis, that symbol, right, is going to be unique for Dell is going to have a different symbol than Microsoft than NVIDIA, right? That would be my key as well. Okay, so in this case, I have the same thing with big data, and I think that is. So let's go to chapter 4, so you can look at the review of those common, even if there's some of these that I haven't missed, and most of it. Let's go to 4. Do we have 4? Right, let's look at 4 for just the second there. Thank you, Dan. And in the 4, if I go to that second slide there, that second slide says, what do I need to do? They're talking about identify 5 factors to increase that contribute to increasing the vulnerability. Then and then compare and contrast human mistakes and social engineering. So I need to know what social engineering is, basically conning people, right? Human mistakes, then Andres is human mistakes are unintentional, right? Social engineering, if I ask social engineering in this case, Ricardo, is social engineering intentional or unintentional?
Intentional.
Intentional. That they have a desire to do some harm. They are what we call bad actors. And then the other thing is I know I'm at risk. So what do I want to do? I have to find 3 risk mitigation strategies to reduce it and identify. And number 5 is identify the 3 major types of controls that organizations can use to protect their information resources. So go to the next slide. And then let's move on. Next one. Let's see. Next one. Okay, so this is important. You need to know the difference. I need to know the difference. We talked about it before, is what is a threat? What is exposure? What is the vulnerability? And in this case, it's easy that you can look in your book. You can look where else. You can even ask ChatGPT or call Annie or all the other ones that I showed you before of what is that? What are those threats? Where am I going to be exposed? For instance, if I haven't updated certain software, the updates of certain software, I'm going to be more vulnerable. What kinds of threats are coming in? Here, there even can be physical threats, right? I have a hurricane coming in. That's a physical threat. Okay, let's go down to the next one. Next slide. And then these are 5. And in this case, the 5 factors, think about it today, is that contributing to vulnerability, I'm more vulnerable because 1, I'm connected. We could see it. If I'm connected to the internet, I'm already vulnerable. People, bad actors can gain access to me. And those bad actors can be like what we call bots, right? They can gain access to what I have. There can be a swarm of these bots getting access, and they can be robots. They don't even have to be humans. What they really want, which he didn't discuss enough, I think, the director, is once they get into the university network, the bad actors, they can have our computers, they can put on software on our computers where we're not even aware, and our computers can be attackers onto other systems. What do they like to do? They just like those drones where they have swarms of drones doing security problems. They can do swarms of these laptops going and attacking certain servers. What they want is they want to have large numbers. So that's the case here. We're having now cheaper computers. They're smaller, they're faster. And basically, with the idea of this Gen AI is they can also then get better each time, just as the good actors can get better, those bad actors get better too by able to crack passwords, to be able to crack codes in a way that they don't even have to be that smart. They give them a recipe. So go to the next slide. And then the next one, let's see here. And this is the key here in this one, unintentional, right, is the human errors, the social engineering, unintentional threats, and that social engineering is intentional, right? What's the next one? That they're basically showing us all these security threats are coming. We can make that a little bit larger. Thanks, Damien. Is that we can think about it, is they're either coming from outside threats, and notice anytime I see a cloud, that's the internet, right? That's my problem. I can look at this, natural disasters. Do you see that? Floods, right? That I can just basically destroy a building. Basically, I can go under, right? One of the problems with a hurricane is I can lose power, right? Not alone the whole building I can lose, right? I can have, in this case, man-made disasters, but I also can have natural disasters. And then I can have a lot of threats coming from my employees. A lot of times they're the worst because they know the system's the best, right? And especially my technical people, right? I think they're working on a project, and really they're working on to do the system harm. Outsiders, where I give them access. And then notice what he said is the university outsources a lot of Damien, the university outsources most of their security. Do we know what those people do? Do we even have any idea who they are? EY is one of the outsourcers, right? How do I know who they hire? Do you have any clue? The university doesn't, right? The only thing the university thinks is what? They have transference, right? We have insurance, right? But who knows what they're doing? They could be insiders that I don't know what my own employees, but when I outsource it, so that's what becomes a problem. And then go down a bit to human errors, go down one more, that common human errors, of course. What else do we got here? 13 is what? Social engineering. You need to know what that is. We all know what that is, right? In social engineering, somebody that tries to befriend us, tries to schmooze us. That's what I talk about, tries to manipulate in order to get confidential information without me knowing it. What are the other things? Go to the next one. Deliberate threats. Go to the next one. And then go to the next one. It's about business. What do I care? I want to go to controls. Okay, here at this one, you should know what are the difference. I got a remote software attacks requiring some kind of user action. The user has to do something. If the user clicks on a link, that's the problem. So viruses, worms, phishing attacks, spear attacks, they're trying whale attacks. They're trying to get the end user to do something in order for the attack to be successful. Go to the next one, next slide, 16, and see. And in these, put your note here that there needs to be no user action. There can be a denial of service, a distributed denial of services using botnets that can go through that swarm of nets that the user doesn't have to do anything. The software then does the penetration. Go to the next one. Trojan horse that's by the programmer. So when I'm asking you, one is by the end user has to do something, no user, and these a programmer somewhere along the supply chain put in what they call a Trojan horse, a backdoor, a logic bomb, basically to cause corruption to my data or stealing my data. Go to the next one. An alien software, it means you need to know what adware. I basically can have those pop-ups, spyware, what a keylogger is. Damien, do you have any idea what a keylogger is?
It's something that tracks what keys you hit on the keyboard, right?
And so let's say I go to the airport and I go to a hotel, just needed my pass, and then I basically use another computer. They could have installed a key logger, and I said, I'm just going to check my my email. I put in, and I feel pretty good since I put in my username. What happens when you type in a password, Damien? Usually you get those asterisks above. So if somebody's looking over my shoulder, I don't see it. But a key logger grabs the keys strokes and doesn't even worry about those asterisks because it's grabbing the keys, holding it in. So if I go into my bank account, I go into the university's email with my username and password, you can see I can go into my Instagram, a number of different ones where I have them, my key loggers, they can grab those keys and I'm not even aware of it. Usually those key loggers are when I'm using other people's computers, but they have what they call screenscapers. Basically, it can scrape your screen and gather all that, what you think are hidden information with all those asterisks, they can grab it. So there's the adware, the spamware, those types of things can do damage. And then go to the next one. What's the next one on it? Okay, so this is the key that what we're talking about. You need to go through this of that risk and analysis of risk mitigation. Go to the next one. What's this one? This is talk about how do I mitigate it? I can either accept it, I can limit my risk, saying in this case, when I was trading, what am I going to do? I say, I don't want to lose more than 10%, or I don't want to even make more than 10%. Get me out of the trade. Risk transference is what? Insurance, right? Gabrielle Ortega, I'm transferring my risk to another operation. Go ahead. And then for all my accounting majors, then what I have is I have auditors going into the system, for instance, going into the university and say, do you have proper controls? Are you controlling the risk by putting in some barriers? That when you park, just like you say, when I leave my house, one of the controls is, are you locking the door? No, I'm not locking the door. My car, am I locking the car? No. A lot of times, some insurances, if you haven't done due diligence on simple controls, they will not provide you in, and they will not pay you for the insurance. Go to the next one. So I can think about, this is the key then. I need to know the difference. What's a physical control, what's an access control, and what's a communication control. So physical, we can think about it, those guardrails, it's those locks on the doors, access control, who I gain access to, right? Communication controls like my firewalls, my access, my Duo, right? My access are my username and my password. And business continuity planning, Andres, if there's a hurricane and one of our offices, let's say, is in Naples, and God forbid they get slammed, what is then my business continuity planning when they no longer have an office, when they no longer have even electricity? What am I going to do? I have to plan for that. And go to the next one. And then go to the next one. That's physical controls. Go to the next one. Okay, this one with hot site. Which one? 25. Go to 25. So in my business continuity planning, what's going to be important here is my disaster recovery plan. I have to plan for a disaster. And what we're going to do then, Anders, is the idea, if that Sarasota site is so important for me, let's say that's going to be where my servers are, and that's where I can't afford for that system to be down, I have to develop what I call a hot site. And that hot site means I'm going to have another location, probably not in Florida, maybe in California or in the Northeast, that immediately when that system goes down, hot site means that site can be up and running in a short period of time, maybe not even when people are even aware of it. A warm site, Andres, is I'm going to create another site, maybe near Virginia, where I said it's going to take me a while to get up and running. We got all the equipment there, but it's going to take me maybe a few days to get up and running. And a cold site is that I have the location, but it's going to take me a while, maybe months, in order to get up and running. So that's it. Okay, so on the other part, so you can close that, Damien. The PowerPoint. And then if we look to go back up all the way, scroll up. So if I look then under my PowerPoints and documents, click on PowerPoints and documents to my left. I click on my PowerPoints and documents and I can see, click on, then on the review exam on the Auto Systems PDF, open that up, right? So I see here, go down. That should be changed, right? The October 9th should be, of course, the 16th. Go down all the way and I want to look at the open-ended questions. Actual open-ended. So you can go to the very bottom there. So my open-ended, I'm going to have two questions. And what I'd like to make sure that you understand, there may be a combination where this needs to be changed. This is an old version. The two of these will be exam verbatim. You can even change that to say not verbatim. So there should be this is like an older version. But basically, what I'm saying is it could be that I combine questions 3 and 4 together. What are the characteristics of backtesting and optimization in automated trading systems, and give examples we use for backtesting and optimization? Or in this case, what is algorithmic trading? What are automated systems? What are the advantages and disadvantages? And what are the give examples to what we used in class. So give examples of what is an automated system, what are those advantages and disadvantages that you saw, and what was the algorithmic trading that we did. Okay, so you can stop sharing. Thank you, Damien, for that. So, Gabriela Ortega, did that help?
Yep.
So you understand and study. So I would use Wednesday to study. And you can study with groups. You can study. Let me share my screen. I'll even maybe study with Call Annie.ai. So in this way I can call I can sign in with Call Annie, right? And I have my Call Annie. Hi, Annie, this is Dr. Rush, and I'm with my IT class, and we're preparing to take a test. And I wanted you to tell us what is the difference between back testing and optimization, or is there a difference?
Hey, Dr. Rush. Great to hear from you in your class. Yes, there's definitely a difference. Backtesting is when you test your trading strategy on historical data to see how it would have performed. It's like taking your strategy for a test drive. Optimization, on the other hand, involves tweaking the parameters of your strategy to find the best possible settings for those historical conditions. It's like tuning a car for maximum performance. Do you think your class will find that distinction helpful?
I hope so. We used the sample SMA crossover 1025. Can you explain what that is?
Absolutely. The SMA crossover 1025 strategy uses two simple moving averages as SMA, one calculated over 10 periods and the other over 25 periods. When the 10 period SMA crosses above the 25 period SMA, it's a signal to buy, indicating upward momentum. Conversely, when it crosses below, it's a signal to sell, suggesting downward momentum. It's a classic strategy. How's it been working for your class?
Well, we've had some issues with it. Seemed like sometimes it did well on the long trades, but not the short trades. So what we did was, on our optimization, is we gave a range of parameters. And that seemed to work better. So we're able to find the greatest total net profit.
That's awesome. Giving a range of parameters can really help capture different market conditions. It's like finding the sweet spot for your strategy. It's great to hear you're getting better results with the optimization. Have you noticed any specific parameters that really made a difference?
Yes, we did, but we'll talk to you later. We got to go, but thank you very much. And we'll look at your text to review. Thank you so much, Annie.
You're welcome, Dr. Rush. I'm glad I could help.
Okay, and what I like here is then I can go to my calls, go to my last one, and I have then the text as well. So absolutely, the SMA crossover uses two simple averages and it tells me what the algorithm is. So when I ask what's algorithmic trading, you can give an example of this. And I'm gonna see. So moving average calculated over 10 periods. When the 10 period SMA crosses above the 25, it's a signal to buy, indicating upward momentum. Conversely, when it crosses below, it's a signal to sell, suggesting a downward momentum. It's a classic strategy. So you can even, I like to think about it, is Gabriella, you can even use her as a study partner. Or any other ChatGPT. I like conversational ones, but you could also use a text one as well. Questions? So what I can do is I can wish you all to be safe. I'm going to take attendance. And then Wednesday you can use for study time. And I'll see you next Wednesday at 5 o'clock at the SBA 204. Stay with me. I'm going to do attendance, and then stay with me if you have additional questions. Make sure that I'm in J. I'm going to go to attendance. I'm going to start checking. And then 6016. So stay safe. I'm glad that the university also, not only myself, I was going to do it whether to postpone the exam, but I'm glad that the university is also keeping us safe and mitigating those risks. Okay, so stay with me. Otherwise, we'll see each other next week. Stay with me if you have any questions, you need some help, or anything else. Okay, so it's 6016.
Thank you, Dr. Rush.
My pleasure. Okay, I'll stop sharing. And then let me close my YouTube.